Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello, and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, and joining me as always is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Hello, everybody.
It is Season 3, Episode 51. The Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Carolina Panthers on Thursday Night Football this week, Week 10 of the NFL season, by a final score of 52-21. Just a little bit of podcast news I wanted to catch everyone else up on before we got started. We're going to be doing a little bit of a different format for our recap episodes for now. Instead of just going by unit, we're going to try to go through and just talk about the game from start to finish as far as what happened, kind of going not necessarily play by play, but kind of drive by drive. We're just kind of go in a sequential order, and we'll talk about things. And if there's ever a point where things will branch off from certain discussions, we'll try to do that a little bit. We just want it to be a little more conversational. We wanted to try some new things here. So I just wanted to let everyone know that we're going to be doing things a little bit differently on this end, for now anyways, and we'll kind of see how we like it after a couple times doing it, and we'd love to take feedback, and we'll see where we go from there. But for the time being, we just wanted to spice it up a little bit. Obviously, the big talking point today, which is November 13th, 2018, the deadline for Le'Veon Bell to sign his franchise tag came and passed at 4 p.m. today, meaning that Bell will not be able to play in the 2018 season, most likely ending his career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I mean, let's be honest, he's not going to play for the Steelers ever again. And it's really quite interesting to think about how this all went down just 2 years ago when this all started. And I'll walk you through the timeline in a second here, but I guess, Austin, there was never really much of a doubt the last couple days that he wasn't going to report, was there?
Oh, no. I thought that as soon as that leaked the article in the contract of the franchise tags, once that was leaked that if he sits out, that next year we'll get franchise tag for $25 million, I immediately knew he wasn't going to play. It's like, why would he? What's funny about this all is I love, like, what's surfaced after all of this. Like, you see Le'Veon Bell's old tweets while he was at Michigan State, I'm sorry. And it's just like, if you're sitting out for any reason that's not due to injury, you don't love this game. And then there's like another quote. Let's see if I can I'll get it in a second, actually. It's just funny, like, how Bell has handled this entire thing. He's given no clarity, and this is what pissed off his teammates. He didn't even tell his teammates what he's doing, and that's mostly because he didn't know what he was doing. It's just, I feel like this whole thing coming to a close is great for everyone. We can finally stop talking about it. I mean, I'm sure the announcers on Sunday, James Conner is going to run for like a 20-yard run, and the announcer's like, well, he's not Le'Veon Bell, but he's out there. Like, because it feels like every time James Conner runs, that's what happens. It's just funny. Here's the quote that I was looking for. If you play this game for money and or fame, then you're playing it for the wrong reason. I love the game first, then everything else. And that was tweeted in 2012 when he was still at Michigan State, like I said. And it's just funny, like, how this all went down with him. It's stupid. It's funny in that regard to how dumb this has been, and I'm just glad it's over. What do you think of this whole saga?
Well, it certainly has been a mess, but it extends back so long, and it's kind of interesting to look back on the whole timeline and talk about kind of how we got to where we are today. So before I answer your question, let's go back in time. Let's go back to June of 2016. The Steelers had just come off a disappointing loss to the Broncos in the AFC divisional round. Le'Veon Bell was recovering from an MCL tear thanks to Vontaze Burfict. With 1 year remaining on his rookie deal, Bell faces at this time a second drug-related suspension, and with his off-the-field issues, the Steelers and Bell are unable to come to an agreement before the season on an extension, and therefore Bell decides to release his song Focus a month later, which states that he believes he's worth $15 million a year. That next month, August 2016, Bell is officially suspended the first 3 games of his 2016 NFL season. D'Angelo Williams started the last 3 games of his NFL career in place of Bell. Contract talks are shelved for the time being. Fast forward to New Year's Eve 2016, with the Steelers taking on the Browns in a meaningless season finale. Le'Veon Bell is named the Steelers' 2016 MVP. He averaged 157 yards per game upon his return from suspension. His season included a record-setting rushing performance in Buffalo on December 11th that Austin and I both attended, in which he rushed for 236 yards and had 298 total yards and 3 touchdowns. Bell states at the time that he wants to be a Pittsburgh Steeler and that the team and him are going to try to do everything that it takes to make that happen. Ben Roethlisberger echoes these sentiments as well. Turning the calendar to February of 2017, the Steelers franchise tag Le'Veon Bell for the first time. This tag is worth $12.2 million. July 2017, the deadline to work out a long-term deal passes. With no deal in place and having already skipped OTAs and minicamps to this point, Bell intends to sit out the rest of the preseason. Mind you, this deadline is a deadline to extend players on the franchise tag. After that date in July passes, you can no longer extend someone. In September of 2017, as we remember, Bell reports to the Steelers a week before the season opener against the Browns. Bell intends to prove that he can play a full season injury-free, and it takes him a while to get going. He has 1 good game in the first month of the season, then finally gets going a bit in October of 2017. He has a dominant game against the Kansas City Chiefs, who were then undefeated, rushing for 179 yards. January of 2018, after the Steelers season ends at the hands of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Bell threatens to sit out the 2018 season or even retire if the Steelers decide to tag him again. He's optimistic a deal will get done, stating that he believes that they are a lot closer than they were last year, meaning him and the Steelers. In March of 2018, the Steelers tag Bell for the second time at the final hour, and this year it occurs. The occurrence is with a price tag of $14.5 million instead of the $12.2. In July of 2018, Bell misses OTAs and minicamps again. Bell is unable to come to terms with the Steelers on a long-term agreement. The last offer was reportedly $70 million over 5 years. Bell apologizes to fans on Twitter and states at the time that 2018 would be his best season. 1 month later, center Marquise Pouncey admits that players don't know when Bell is going to show up. Bell refutes a report stating that he was going to show up before week 1, calling it fake news. And then going back to September, Pouncey believes that Bell will show up the Wednesday before the opening game, not off of something Bell told him, but based off of his belief that Bell would not stay away. So when Bell didn't show up on Wednesday, as we all remember, several Steelers players rip him, including David DeCastro, Marquise Pouncey, and Ramon Foster. Last month, despite missing $855,000 for every game he misses, Bell doesn't give a straight answer of when he intends to return. In his first interview since his holdout extended into the regular season, Bell does state he wants to be a Steeler for the long-term future. He indicates his return at the end of some point during the season. Reports then surface that Bell's expected to return during the bye week, but he doesn't report. Then new reports believe that he's going to show up 2 weeks later at the trading deadline, so he's not traded, but he still doesn't show up. And then finally, last week he tweets farewell Miami and is then seen playing basketball at an LA Fitness just north of Pittsburgh, then has a cryptic upside-down tweet a week before the headline hinting that he might not show up to practice or play at all. And then on Saturday, reports surfaced that he's not going to return to the Steelers this season. And obviously, as we know, he did not return. So, now that we've gone through the timeline and I guess the whole saga, what are your thoughts on the whole nonsense with Bell, how it ultimately played out to this point, and what happens next for both Bell and the Steelers?
You just got to keep moving forward. That's basically it. James Conner has taken Bell's spot, and if anything, Conner has outperformed him so far compared to last season. I bring it up all the time, but Bell finished last season with 4 yards a carry. Conner right now is averaging 4.7 yards a carry, and then Conner has improved his hands, in both pass blocking and pass catching, and there's no noticeable difference between him and Bell for the most part. I mean, maybe the yards per game, but, like, really, this team is full of stars now. This team has Juju Smith-Schuster, Antonio Brown, Vance McDonald, and now you have James Conner. There's not much relying on one person to do everything. So I feel like if you fed James Conner the way Le'Veon Bell was fed, it would be the same exact result. But because of how many people are on this team right now that are all really good with the ball in their hands, it's just, I feel like it's just the Steelers spreading the ball. But I already said that this saga was stupid. I think Bell is stupid. I don't understand why he came back to Pittsburgh at all. It's my favorite thing about him returning to Pittsburgh is after preaching how he didn't want to get hurt, preaching how he's sitting out the season so he could save himself for next year wherever he plays for his big contract. He's out there playing scrimmage basketball for fun, for no reason, not getting paid $14.5 million a year to play scrimmage basketball, but he's doing that, risking his health. Okay, all right. I mean, I personally, if I'm playing a sport and I'm offered $14.5 million and I might get hurt, or I'm offered $0, I'm taking the $14.5 million to play where I might get hurt. I just that blows my mind. That absolutely blew my mind seeing that. I mean, obviously he's working out. I think at one point he did want to come back and return and play, so he was working out. But it's just stupid. It really is. Like you look at I'm going to go outside of football for a second. Just looking at basketball injuries are like more gruesome than football injuries. If you go up, like the next player that there's no way I'm going to remember his name because I don't really watch NBA. I think it's Carl Levitz or something like that. It looked nasty. It's just he came down on the leg wrong and it looked like it snapped. Playing basketball to me is like should be a no-go if you're trying to stay healthy as a football player. And just you shouldn't be doing that. That's stupid. Now, I mean, that really wraps it up for me. Like, I don't really have much else to say. Like, I'm glad it's finally over. I'm glad that I know he's not coming back, and he's, to me right now, is a free agent. He's not a Steeler to me. He's not. He didn't sign his tag. He's not on the roster. He is not a Steeler. He's a free agent. And at this point now, I could stop caring because it doesn't pertain to me. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be questions after next game about to the offensive linemen and stuff, or prior to that game where they ask him about how Le'Veon Bell didn't show up and stuff. And then really, it's hard for me to say that I'm going to miss him at this point. It really is, because it's just become terrible. And I forgot to mention it, but John actually let me know. Terrell Suggs tore his Achilles playing basketball. So just take that into account, that he's doing this for free, where he's been preaching about saving his body for that big contract. It's just, again, super stupid. But what do you think of this whole ordeal?
You know, it's so hard to pinpoint where this all went wrong for Bell, or at what point he ultimately decided to go 100% with this decision. And I think for a long time, Bell wanted nothing more than to play with the Steelers and to be a Steeler for life. I'm sure you remember his mother is a huge Steelers fan, or I don't know if she still is, but she at least used to be. And there was a time when his mother wanted him to take the deal back in 2017, to take that deal then. He turned it down. And it's fascinating to me because I feel like Bell has been given bad advice. And I think I don't know, Austin, do you think? I think Adisa Bakari could be the worst agent in pro sports.
Oh, yeah. I think at the end of the day, he's never going to make the money back that he would have made by playing this year. Because you said it yourself to me the other day off the podcast, that it's going to take a big contract, which, I mean, he is asking for franchise quarterback money at this time, if that's not a facade. He's not going to make this $14.5 million back likely with his next contract. It's not going to be big enough. So his agent probably turned him in the wrong direction when this contract was fully guaranteed because it was a franchise tag. So yes, I agree that he might be the worst agent ever.
I think I'm not going to say Bell was, completely fooled, but I think he might have been kind of influenced or convinced that a long-term deal would have been more valuable, even though it's something that is only, I guess, it's only theory right now, or it's not real right now. The way I see it, and it's tough because I am just an everyday person as opposed to, superstar running back. But if I have a chance, like if you're offered to take $14.5 million this year, or like next year, if next year you can get $14.5 million guaranteed, or you might get $70 million starting 2 years from now, and you'll get it over the next 5 years after that. Yeah, I'll be interested about the $70 million and the possibility of it, but I think I'll be just fine with the $14 million. And I'm more interested in getting something I know I can get. Which is why it's so fascinating to me that Bell decided to commit so hard to it. And I think part of it is, I think Bell almost took it as an insult when he first got offered what he got offered. It almost seemed to me like at that point he just made the decision that he was never going to let up, and he was never going to change his mind, and he just took it so personally that he was not willing at all. Like, it's weird because I feel like there were times he did want to come back and he did want to play, and there were other times I feel like he almost changed his mind. It's very weird. I felt like we were listening or seeing a different Bell almost every week. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm sorry, repeat the question?
Didn't it feel like Bell just was almost like a different person from week to week? It felt like sometimes he'd act like he wanted to be there, and some weeks he just acted like he was never going to change his demands.
Oh, yeah. He changed it up like every other week, like you said. Like, it genuinely felt like he did want to come back at one point. I definitely thought at one point he was going to return. He made it sound like it several times. Like, he said that 2018 season was going to be his best yet. And then, he returned to Pittsburgh, 4 days ago, or whatever it was, whenever he got back. And it just, but, in between that, he's like, yeah, I'm not playing, through his tweets. He puts out those stupid upside-down tweets where he's like, yeah, you need to read in between the lines, and I'm not playing. He's very... You really couldn't tell. It really came down to the wire if he was showing up today. I mean, for some people. If he was ever clear about what he was doing. And again, that's what pissed his teammates off.
Yeah, it's quite clear that he changed his mind several times throughout this process. And I guess at the end of the day, the way I see it is, like you just said, he's never going to make that $14.5 million back, or at least it's going to be very, very difficult. And you look at teams throughout the league not true, it does only take one team to overpay for a running back, but I guess let me lead that into our next question. Where's Bell going to be next year? Because I can't think of many teams that need a running back that have that much cap space.
The team I'm leaning to right now is the New York Jets. Obviously, I think the beginning of the season, I said that I thought he was going to be a Colt. Well, I think Marlon Mack's come out and been kind of dope so far for the Colts, and they might be out of that market with Marlon Mack being so young. They had the cap space for it, but now we have to see how real Le'Veon Bell is being about that franchise quarterback money, because the only team stupid enough to actually probably do that is the New York Jets, because they have that cap space and they're rebuilding and they want guys to surround Sam Darnold that are good. So I think that they would be the team desperately stupid enough to do it. My two other backup ideas are going to be, I'll say the one that I highly doubt based on their previous negotiations, Raiders. Raiders are stupid, but they're not stupid enough to pay players. Obviously they weren't smart enough to pay Khalil Mack, So I doubt that they would sign Le'Veon Bell, but they're going to need a running back next season if they don't extend Marshawn Lynch, who's on a contract year, because Doug Martin isn't going to cut it, and neither is Jalen Richard. So that's my like backup option. But my second one, where I actually feel like it's possible, is the Miami Dolphins. And I think because it's Miami, Le'Veon Bell would kind of take a pay cut. He wouldn't pay cut in terms of like what he wants, because I think he would want to be in Miami where he's so used to hanging out. He likes it down there. He's obviously been down there for the past 2 off seasons in a row, and for most of this season actually. But I feel like he would take a pay cut there. And then they got Frank Gore and Kenyon Drake, and I mean Kenyon Drake is young, but like they obviously have not. I for Miami, I thought Kenyon Drake was going to be the guy, and Frank Gore was going to back him up. That is not what happened. Frank Gore, the ageless wonder, has taken over in Miami. And Frank Gore can't, I mean, he's still going right now, but he can't go forever. And I think that they decided that Drake is not their back of the future. He's not the franchise back. So I feel like Le'Veon Bell could go there. I don't know about their situation money-wise, though. I feel like that might be stopping it. But, again, I think Le'Veon Bell might take a little less to be down there. If it's possible. Where do you think his best landing spot is?
Well, I'm trying to think about this because, let's be honest, if Bell wants as much money as he's talking about, even just not the quarterback money, even just the money, even just Todd Gurley money. So let's just try to narrow the list down to teams with quarterbacks on rookie deals, Austin. So correct me if I'm wrong, but this would be teams in the AFC such as the Bills, the Jets, the Browns, the Texans,
the Ravens.
The Ravens, yeah, because they'll probably cut Joe Flacco loose after this year.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Then, how much are they paying Case Keenum in Denver?
$22 million, I believe.
Oof. We'll pass on Denver. So that's 4 teams in the AFC, right? 4 or 5, right? Texans,
Yep.
Ravens, Bills, and Jets. Okay. And Browns, so 5. In the NFC, it would be the Chicago Bears, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because I'm assuming Jameis Winston's going to be out, and the Arizona Cardinals, right?
Yeah, just on the AFC side, we missed the Chiefs, but they got Kareem Hunt, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, they're not adding him.
Yeah, they're not adding a running back.
So, of those teams, let's go down the list. We talked about the Jets being a possibility. Would the Texans add him? I don't think so.
It's hard for me to picture the Texans doing it, but I don't know. Maybe they had Brock Osweiler for a lot of money, which was a big mistake, so, like, maybe.
I think the Ravens would be an interesting possibility. They'll have a new GM and most likely a new coach. That's something we need to talk about later, too, is John Harbaugh, too. But I guess we'll get into that later since we're kind of running long here. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that there aren't many teams here. The only teams I could really see Bell going to besides the whole rookie contract thing is Miami, like you said, and I think Tampa Bay is also another interesting landing spot. It's going to be very interesting for sure, but I don't know. I guess I'm just glad that it's over with. And I guess finally, how are we going to look at Bell in 5 years from now, and we're going to look back on his career with the Steelers?
I think how I'm going to remember it is by this quote: either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. And that is going to put it perfectly for me. Bell was a hero for Pittsburgh. He was that guy for Pittsburgh for a while. And, I mean, as time went on, he just started becoming more and more disliked by fans. And, like, at this point, I'm just glad he's gone. I'm glad he's not coming back. As soon as James Conner started going off, I was like, good riddance, goodbye, don't come back. And that's basically how I'm going to remember him. And I'm already been petty. I'm hoping, I've been telling my buddies, like, I hope he goes to somewhere without an offensive line, because Le'Veon Bell might be one of the few times you could say he might have been a system running back. You don't hear that ever. But because of the Steelers' O-line, it's in question. And I would love to see his patient running style behind a line where he doesn't get any time. I mean, of course, there's a chance he goes to a team with a good offensive line, but still, in all honesty, there would be nothing more that I would love if he went to the Baltimore Ravens. I would want to see him twice a year going forward. But, I mean, it would just add to it that he's the villain, that this is who he is now. But how are you going to remember Le'Veon Bell with the Steelers?
I hope that in 5 years I can remember his time with the Steelers a little more favorably than I think all of us do right now. I'm hoping I remember the good years that he had before the ugly ending here. I mean, it's going to be tough, and I suppose a lot of it does have to do with the way the Steelers play next year. Let me ask you, would it be easier to sort of make amends with Bell if the Steelers win a championship in the next 5 years? Or does that not matter?
I don't think it matters. I don't think, because with James Harrison, let's look at something else, because James Harrison became a villain really quick for a lot of Steelers fans last year. I've already gotten over James Harrison. And, I mean, the Steelers didn't win a championship in that time, but it was on different grounds. And what I'm trying to say, how I'm trying to compare this is, Le'Veon Bell is leaving on so much worse grounds. And people still don't like James Harrison. And, I mean, I get that. I mean, I'm not like that. But I don't think I'm ever going to like Le'Veon Bell ever again. I'm going to be not rooting for an injury, but I'm going to be rooting for him to suck as hard as possible. I want him to run into his offensive lineman every play because they're not good enough. It's going to be hard for me to ever root for Le'Veon Bell, ever. I think it's over for me, at least. That's what I think. Are you ever going to get over it? Because I'm not.
I like to think that I will, and I'm trying to respect and understand his decision. I'm probably not going to openly root against him, but I'd be lying if I told you that, at least from a Steelers perspective, it would probably be nice to see the Steelers' decision and the way they played this whole thing the last 2 years. I think the way they played it was about as perfect as you can play it. It would be nice for them to get some validation for that. But I like to think that time heals all wounds, at least mostly. And I'm hoping that in time they'll be able to forgive and maybe not forget, but be able to forgive what happened. And maybe someday he'll be welcomed back in Pittsburgh, because he did have a fantastic career. He's only 42 yards short of Willie Parker for third all-time in the team's rushing list. I think it is a shame that the whole Killer Bee era in Pittsburgh will end without a championship, at least the original Killer Bees, that being Ben, Brown, and Bell. So I'll always be disappointed the three of them didn't get to win a championship, but I digress. I guess at the end of the day, it is what it is. And this is just it for Bell as far as hearing talk with the Steelers for the rest of the regular season. Don't worry, there'll be plenty of more talk at the end of the season, so don't you worry. For now, though, now that we've sunk a half hour into the Bell talk...
Wait, one last thing. I want to add one last thing.
Yes.
I hold a lot of disdain in my heart right now, as you can tell, for Le'Veon Bell. But what that's not going to cause me to do is burn my Le'Veon Bell jersey. Anyone that is thinking of doing that, please donate it. I am going to be donating my Le'Veon Bell jersey. There are some Steelers fans that would love nothing more than to just represent their team, but can't afford to spend the money on a jersey. And even if it's an outdated Le'Veon Bell jersey, just donate it. Even if it doesn't go to a Steelers fan, man. Like, it's just not right to be so wasteful like that. So if you're like me and have all this, I guess, disdain towards Bell right now, do not burn your jersey. That's stupid. Please donate it.
100% agree with you. There's nothing I hate more than seeing people. I see people do this on Facebook all the time, and I saw it at the beginning of the year when he didn't report people burning jerseys. You see it all the time whenever someone leaves via free agency or does a team dirty. It's nonsense. Don't do it. It's beyond stupid to do something like that. congratulations on drawing attention to yourself if you do something like that. There's absolutely nothing to gain from it.
Now we can move on. Sorry, I just wanted to add that.
No, it's important. I'm glad you said it too. All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers, as we mentioned at the top of the show, defeated the Carolina Panthers on Thursday Night Football. I know we didn't get a chance to preview this game together, Austin, but I think you'd have agreed with me that we both thought this was going to be a pretty close game, probably a tough contested game. It could have gone out either way.
Oh, yeah. What I think I had, I honestly don't remember my final score prediction. I think it was 33-31. Like, I thought it was going to be a high-scoring affair, but a close one, and with the Steelers winning. I did not think that the Steelers were going to blow out the Panthers like they did.
I completely agree. And I guess from the opening drive, it really looked like the Steelers were going to be in trouble. We had talked about the defense the last few weeks and how they had played better, but they really hadn't faced that much of a big test yet. And we felt like the Panthers were going to be that first look of the new of a big test, a good litmus test for the defense. And the first drive right away, the Panthers marched right down the field. A couple of big runs by Christian McCaffrey. I noticed right away the Steelers were intent on not letting Cam Newton burn them on the ground. They were running the read option, and on several plays, I think there were like 4 or 5 plays. Didn't you notice Bud Dupree like just crashing in on Newton and like running right up to him, making sure that if he did have the ball, he was going to stop him? And then obviously he would hand off to McCaffrey, who was running wide open, you know?
Oh, yeah, I did notice that a lot. That's funny you mentioned Bud Dupree. I thought Bud Dupree was all over the place again this game, especially in terms of pass rushing. But McCaffrey was getting way too much room to run early. And like you said, on that opening drive, I literally went to my group chat and was like, so this game going to end 67-60, ain't it? Like, it's going to be a college score. They gave McCaffrey so much room to work with on both his pass catching and his running in the beginning. But, yeah.
And, I mean, a lot of these read option plays early, the Steelers just had 2 deep safeties. They weren't walking them up to kind of stop and replace Dupree on the open end. And then after that big 21-yard play, we finally saw the Steelers force a third down, but then they went for it. I like that Ron Rivera went for it on 4th and 1 from the 22. You're on the road on Thursday night. I think that's a good call.
Yeah, you're the best rushing offense against one of the – I mean, technically the Steelers are best rushing, a good rushing defense in terms of yards per game. I'll call that a fake facade because the Steelers got passed on so much early on in the season. But I like him trusting his offense on the field there because, I mean, it's really hard to stop. If it was Cam Newton, it would have been hard. If it was Christian McCaffrey getting it, it would have been hard. So I feel like it was smart of them to go for it there.
Yeah, it was just good situational football. And then the next play, it's a touchdown, Cam Newton to Christian McCaffrey. That's just not a good matchup, Vince Williams on Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, you don't want to see it. Yeah. And it's not the only time it happened in the game. It happened when Boss kicked the second time, but it's just hard to have linebackers that aren't fast matched up against really good pass-catching running backs. So that was really rough, and at that point, I thought it was going to be a long game.
Yeah, it certainly looked like the defense was in for a rough one. It was up to the offense to see what they could do, and it took them all of like 5 seconds to get something done. The first play from scrimmage on the touchback, Roethlisberger with the pump fake to James Washington, the cornerback on the inside bites, and Smith-Schuster is wide open down the sideline. Roethlisberger hits him in stride. He outruns the safety 75 yards for the touchdown. That play was something of beauty, and I think based on what I watched it several times, I'm sure you did too, that pump fake to Washington, that had to be something they saw on tape and they were licking their chops at all week long.
Oh, yeah, that pump fake was nice. And, I mean, it's coming from Ben has actually been struggling with his pump fakes this year. He's dropped a few balls by misfires because I think that's what he's trying to do because he's always been good at these pump fakes. But this one was a really nice one. Really got James Bradbury, James. I get his name confused. Off the ball, and then Eric Reed was out of position too because of it. Because it's even more amazing that it's Juju Smith-Schuster because Juju Smith-Schuster doesn't even really have that breakaway speed. I thought Eric Reed was going to still catch him. So, like, that's how you know Ben really got both guys out of the area. Like, he did a really good there.
So the Steelers managed to tie the game in just one play, and then the Panthers' very next play, I really felt like this was where the game really just turned on a dime, and it went from, oh boy, here we go, to wow, here we go. And Cam Newton does the old play-action bootleg. He's stuck in his own end zone, and TJ Watt reads it perfectly. He doesn't bite on the fake. He gets in after Newton. He's starting to wrap him up. Newton, instead of taking the safety, inexplicably decides to throw the football. I think he was trying to throw to Christian McCaffrey or Greg Olsen. I'm really not sure on the replay, but he just airmails this thing, and it's just lofted up in the air, and Vince Williams is there. He just snags it and runs right in. Probably the easiest score he'll ever have in his career, his second career pick. You could just tell the energy in the building shifted on that play.
Oh, yeah. Vince Williams was in the right spot at the right time. And T.J. Watt was just applying that pressure, came flying in. I really don't know what Cam Newton was thinking either. I couldn't tell who he was trying to throw to. The announcer, I believe, said he thought it was Olsen. I was leaning towards the McCaffrey. But regardless, it was a terrible decision by Newton, and Vince started off his great day with this, and the Steelers scored 2 touchdowns in 13 seconds. At this point, and like you said, it really shifted the momentum.
And this was evident because on the Panthers' next drive, they go 3-and-out, and the Steelers get the ball in good field position at their own 39-yard line, and it's just they're starting to get everyone involved. You get a couple passes to Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster runs a nice end around, and then finally we get James Conner in the ball. We're getting James Conner involved. He gets 32 yards on the last 5 plays of that drive, including 5 consecutive plays, actually. And then he finishes off the drive with a 12-yard run up the middle and then gets a 2-yard touchdown, his 10th of the year. And just one last parallel with Bell. Bell set a career high in rushing touchdowns last year with 9. James Conner picked up his 10th on Thursday night in Week 10. How crazy is that?
That's insane. It really shows you. Going off on a tangent for a second, do you know people are arguing yards are more important than touchdowns on Twitter? This is for a separate argument, but people are actually arguing that yards are more important than touchdowns in the NFL football. It blows my mind. I don't understand. I mean, I get it. Like, if you only have, 10 yards on 10 rushes and all those are at the 1-yard line, you got 10 touchdowns, I get it. But it's just a lot of diehard fans for their teams argue some stupid stuff. But anyway, back to the real game. Oh, yeah, that offensive drive, that was so good. On that second one, Ben fumbled, but was smart enough to pick it up and know where his check down was. I was really happy with that because, at first it was like, oh, no, here comes the Panthers with their momentum again, they didn't force anything. Ben just dropped it. It was a weird snap. But that was my key to the game was you can't have turnovers against the Panthers because that's what they're good at on defense. And still, Ben was able to pick it up and chuck it to James Conner for an 8-yard gain. Not the biggest gain, but I was just happy that it didn't turn into something stupid where the momentum could have shifted back to the Panthers. And really, Conner looked unstoppable on that drive. He nearly got into the end zone the play before the touchdown. Eric Reed just barely stopped him on that 12-yard run, I believe it was.
Yeah, he absolutely plowed him over, too. And it's funny that you mentioned the yards versus points or touchdown debate. The 2016 Patriots, I don't know if you remember, on defense, they statistically had one of the worst yardage defenses, but they were near the top of the league in points. And I think it's quite obvious. I'll take a bend but don't break defense that gives up a ton of yards but not a lot of points, as opposed to one that gives up no yards but a lot of points, which is kind of a statistical oddity, but I think you get what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Falcons fans, by the way. This is a completely separate thing from running backs, which is why I didn't mention it originally. But someone was arguing why Julio Jones was having such a better year than every other wide receiver in the league, not just Antonio Brown. I was like, he's got 2 touchdowns. Relax. But sorry, back to the point at hand.
Well, the Steelers managed to get up 21-7 at that point, And on the next drive, I really felt like it was a huge turning point for the defense. They got some pressure on Cam Newton consistently for the first time after the T.J. Watt pressure that led to the Vince Williams pick six. Vince Williams picking up a sack of his own, and then the Panthers moved the ball a bit. They got a 13-yard run by McCaffrey, a 15-yard completion to Funchess, and then another 13-yard completion to Olsen. And then on a first down from the Steelers' 39, I felt like this was a really important play in the game. Cam Hayward picks up a sack of Cam Newton, not really high quality, but he cleans it up before Newton can get the ball away, and that really set the Panthers back, and they ended up having to punt 2 plays later. I'm not sure if it's worthy of the Big Stop of the Week award necessarily just because it was a sack on a first down, but I feel like the Panthers were starting to get things rolling on offense, and that sack kind of said, enough of that.
Oh, yeah, that Cameron Hayward sack was pretty big. It was after Vince got that sack on that drive as well, like you said, which solidified his great day. But the Steelers, on the next play, struggled against Christian McCaffrey, and they let him get back 13 of the 18 yards after Vince's sack. So it really brought it back for the Panthers, and they got that first down, obviously, that allowed Hayward to get a sack on that same drive. And like you said, that Hayward sack kind of fixed everything because that knocked him out of field goal range. It was only a 5-yard a sack, but Gano hit a 63-yarder earlier in the year against the Giants. So it was big for them to stop that. Then also on that drive, I wanted to mention Cody was one-on-one. Cody Sensible, was one-on-one on Greg Olsen for that big completion he had. I think it was only 13 yards, but I get he's better than Burns, but he's still not that good of a corner where he should be one-on-one with one of the Panthers' best offensive players. I didn't really like that, and I thought Cam Newton capitalized because Greg Olsen beat him bad on that. It wasn't really even close. So I feel like the Steelers have got to make it so that it's not just Cody by himself on one of the Panthers' best offensive players. I don't know if you saw that as well, but that made me think about that.
I might have been thinking about a different play, but I do know what you were talking about. That was not the only time we saw him on Greg Olsen that whole drive. So the Steelers managed to get the ball back. They're deep in their own territory at their own 8-yard line, and here they come right out of the gate. James Conner off the left end for 15 yards. And then we get to see a little Roosevelt Nix. I'd love to get my man Roosevelt Nix involved in the offense. A 6-yard catch and an 11-yard catch too. That was nice. And then it was a 3rd and 2 from the Steelers' 42. Roethlisberger has all day to throw. The Panthers rushed 2 guys for some reason. I'll never understand why you do that. Unless if you're back in the end zone where you have everyone sitting right in the end zone, it's wow, there's 9 guys right in the end zone, so I got to do something. But when you're giving the guy that much time to throw, he didn't even jump around. He was literally just sitting there, kind of well, that guy's not open. That guy's not open. I'm sure you know the play I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah. I literally watched there. Ben looked like he didn't even move. Ben looked like he was just relaxed. He's just chilling. Might go to the sideline, grab a water first before he throws, and then he just decided I'll just throw a nice big completion to Antonio Brown over there since he's finally got open because I'm under no pressure. That was great. I don't know what the Panthers were thinking.
A 33-yard pickup, which actually could have been maybe a touchdown if Roethlisberger had found him sooner. Roethlisberger was unfortunately sacked by Julius Peppers, the old man, on the next play. Peppers had a relatively solid game for someone that's a rotational player at this point in his career. Peppers picked up the sack, and then 2 plays later, Ben Roethlisberger threw his only incompletion of the half that was also deflected by Julius Peppers. And here comes an interesting play. Chris Boswell makes a 50-yard field goal. I believe we said that his long before that this season was 40 or 42 yards, and Boswell comes out with a 50-yard field goal at Heinz Field. Certainly not something I expected, but hey, you know what? On a day where everything went well and there were a lot of winners, I'm not saying Boswell's back because of this, but this has to help his confidence.
Oh, I was very worried about that. As soon as I saw it, it's oh no, it's over 50 yards. The Panthers are going to get good field position. But, he had a really good day. He hit all his extra points on all the touchdowns, and then he hit that. It's really good. But I wanted to go back on that drive and talk about the Peppers sack, because there was something interesting that happened on the other side. Matt Filer got beat. It was a good sack from Julius Peppers. It wasn't like a coverage sack or anything. But I don't know if you noticed, but when I was back watching, I was looking at the left side. Villanueva made a huge mistake in my opinion, because even if Matt Filer contained Julius Peppers, if he didn't let that go, Ben Roethlisberger was getting rocked from behind from Mario Addison, and I hope it was on Villanueva and that was not the play happened. So here's what happened. If you look on the left, it's Vance McDonald and Alejandro Villanueva out there, and Mario Addison is out there. And as everyone should know from the preview, Mario Addison is the Panthers' best pass rusher at the moment. He had 7.5 sacks coming into this one, and he deserved respect. He deserved, out of everyone, if you had to double team someone, him. And what happened on that play, Vance McDonald was matched up on him alone with Villanueva out there. Villanueva moved over to help Ramon Foster and left Vance McDonald to handle Mario Addison by himself. And Vance McDonald ran over. Like it wasn't pretty. I don't expect that of Vance McDonald. That's a borderline elite pass rusher this year. I just don't know what happened. That could have gotten Ben seriously killed, because it was coming from his blind side, of course, and I don't think he felt it. I think he felt that Julius Peppers coming, but honestly, I think Filer getting beat saved Ben right there, because Addison was coming in like a bull, and I don't know if you saw that, but that's something I noticed when I went back to watch. And then one more thing I wanted to say about that drive is I think the amount of wide receiver screens to AB is getting ridiculous. I get it. It's letting the best wide receiver to make a play, but it feels like it's being used a little too often in the playbook, especially AB. I feel like they should change it up a little bit more and use Ryan Switzer on it a little bit, because Ryan Switzer has speed, and he's also got that vision that he has, why he's so good at punt returning and kick returning. So, like, I'm not even saying just stop using the wide receiver screen so much. I'm trying to say, like, use it less with AB. I don't know. I feel like Ryan Switzer should be the best option for that with his skill set. And then just wanted to mention this. There was a Matthew Thomas sighting on the ensuing kickoff after Boswell's 50-yard field goal. He tackled Curtis Samuel at the 23, so it's nice to see he's still alive and doing well. I always like to point out when my man gets playing time and does stuff, so I wanted to point that out.
But yeah, those receiver screens are hurting Antonio Brown's average yards per catch, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely hurting his stats. Minus 1 yard catch for that one, tackled by Dante Jackson.
But in any case, I did take a chance to, while you were talking, to go watch that play. If I had to venture to guess, because I noticed this beforehand, this was supposed to be a relatively quick throw. It was supposed to be a 3-step drop, boom, the ball's out. It's clear that Roethlisberger's first read is shut down, and at that point, that's when he starts looking around like, oh boy, I might have to take a sack here. So my guess here is that as an offensive lineman, you're always taught to defend the inside first instead of the outside, because theoretically you'll have more time as a quarterback to throw the ball with pressure on the outside as opposed to the inside, and it won't affect you as much. So I think what the Steelers' plan there is I believe a theory is that it could be a scheme where Villanueva helps out Foster and, McDonald takes his chances on the outside, because, again, it's supposed to be a quick throw, and you're just kind of banking on McDonald's not going to be beat so quickly. And McDonald did hold up for about, almost 2 seconds, but obviously it didn't last. So that would be my only kind of assertion as to what that could be. I hope that's a sufficient response for you.
No, yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. I didn't really know what was going on there. Because to be honest with you, I didn't focus on what the wide receiver was doing down the field. I was literally just looking at, like, holy crap, they put Vance McDonald on their best pass rusher by himself, and that brought, like, the immediate hot take out of it.
I like to think there's a reason for the madness, although then again, maybe there isn't, and you are right. So it's a theory as to why a possible reason as to why that could have happened. But in any case, the Panthers start get the ball back, and they're down 24-7 here, and at this point, the Panthers put down what's pretty much a desperation drive here, and Cam Newton manages to engineer a touchdown drive here, and eventually gets a touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey of 25 yards. This was just a blown coverage, plain and simple.
Yeah, it was very similar play to the first one he had almost, but this one was even worse because Bostic bit on something on the inside. It would still not have been ideal to have Bostic matched up on Christian McCaffrey up there, because likely it probably is still a touchdown based on their speed difference, but it was really bad because it looked like no one was in the area, because there was no one in the area because Bostic went to the inside. So, I mean, you win some, you lose some. It was one of the few mistakes they made. Wasn't a great one, but I still think that would have happened if Bostic was out there.
Yeah, that one was just not great. Sensabaugh and Burnett apparently went to both. The announcers were talking about Burnett and Sensabaugh going to do the same thing, which could have been a reason for it. I'm willing to give this particular one a pass. You don't want to see that, obviously, but I feel like we haven't talked about defensive miscommunications really since the Bucs game, maybe the Ravens. I feel like the Ravens game was more they just got plain beat, not miscommunications. It's been a while since we've been talking about miscommunication problems.
Yeah, this is a good thing. This is very good. And I think I meant to say Burnett. I think I said Bostic. Yeah,
you did say Bostic, but I also wasn't positive, so I'm glad you cleared that up for me. So the Panthers answer, it's a 10-point game again. At this point, you're like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the Steelers are going to be able to keep this going because we've seen them blow leads like this before. But the Steelers get the ball back, and they start moving the ball again. A huge third down completion to Ryan Switzer for 18 yards. That was a great pre-snap read by Ben Roethlisberger. He throws the ball basically as soon as he catches it from Pouncey. Switzer was in the hole, and he's just off and running when he catches it. And then the next play, Roethlisberger just takes advantage, one-on-one coverage with the rookie Dante Jackson on Antonio Brown. Good luck, young man. That's a tough one. Brown schools him and takes it in for an easy touchdown. The 69th career all-time between these two, which is 7th all-time now.
Yeah, I really liked Ryan Switzer on that quick throw. Speaking of him, I feel like he's the Steelers' best option for wide receiver 3 now. I feel like he should be clearly getting the most playing time for wide receiver 3. I don't know how you feel about that. What do you think? Do you think Ryan Switzer is the best option for wide receiver 3 right now?
I mean, in terms of targets, he should be. The problem is Switzer's really just a situational guy. He's a short yardage guy and a slot guy. So he's not going to always be the number 3 receiver because there are some things he's not going to be really helpful for, but that doesn't mean he's been the most effective. We know Justin Hunter hasn't done much, and James Washington hasn't done much either. Until one of those guys steps up, and let's be honest, Hunter's probably not stepping up. So really it's just on Washington to just take the job that's there for him, or until Eli Rogers comes back, which, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Eli Rogers is going to be the guy that we once knew him to be. I think it's just Switzer's a fantastic situational guy, and if he's your number 3, that's not bad, but there are certain areas of the field where he's not really going to be helpful to you, if I'm making sense.
Oh, yeah. I do. I agree. I just think he's been better than James Washington and Justin Hunter when he's been out on the field, which, like you said, is in specific scenarios. I do wish he was out there more for the wide receiver screens. I will continue to echo. I feel like he would be the best option for those. But in any case, yeah, AB84's 53-yard touchdown over Jackson really pissed them off. They panned to Jackson like right after, and he was like throwing a tantrum and beating up the seat that he was on. But it's just welcome to the league. Nice meeting Antonio Brown, one of the league's best wide receivers, if not the best. So, yeah, really have nothing else to add about that drive. It's just pretty good drive, quick drive to get points on the board before the half ended.
And at this point, I wasn't like, all right, we're going to win the game. But I was like, well, I like our chances a lot better. And then on the next drive, the Steelers just continue to bully the Panthers. And by the way, after that touchdown drive for the Panthers, I'd like to point out that they had just 59 yards of offense from that point on. and the Steelers just imposed their will. And one play, which I really think changed the game for the Panthers offense, and specifically Cam Newton, was when he got absolutely blasted by TJ Watt with the first half winding down. He lost 10 yards and there was a fumble, and there was just a missed assignment, and Watt comes in completely on his own, and it's like, oh man, is like, when I saw him running free, I'm like, this is either going to be a roughing the passer or this is going to be a great play. And he lights him up. That may be an illegal hit. I'm not positive. I was shocked there wasn't a flag, but there wasn't one thrown. The Panthers recover, but at the same time, you could tell from this point on, I felt like Newton's the passes he threw just didn't have as much zip in him. This just really changed the game.
If I remember correctly, I believe this was a shoulder that was already aching him. So, like, I probably hurt him a little bit that he got smacked right in the shoulder that was already hurt. So that's probably why it only went downhill from there. And as for the penalty, I really thought that was a penalty. I thought that was leading with the helmet. But if I'm being honest with you, as in a non-biased opinion, I said this for both the Ravens game, that the Steelers got all the calls. In this game, calls against them. The Ravens got all the calls. I mean, in this game, all the calls went in the Steelers' favor. I felt like this was a game where, like, the refs were really, really hurting the Panthers. Not that if everything went their way, I think the Steelers still outplayed them by a lot. Like, it would have still been a Steelers win if the refs had not played ref ball. But I do want to say that I do think that the Steelers got a lot more calls in this one than the Panthers did in terms of how it was going. And that was one of them. I saw that. It's like, oh, he led with the helmet. That's a penalty. And then it was just like, nope, it's fine. We're cool. It's a sack and fumble that Christian McCaffrey recovered. But, yeah.
Alrighty, and then, from that point on, the Panthers are able to move the ball a bit, but the drive ultimately stalls, and then the Steelers again. The end of the first half, not really sure what was going on here. Excuse me. The Steelers moved the ball a little bit, but they're not taking timeouts, and then they just kind of let the clock run out there. I wasn't sure what was going on there. Normally, I want them to be aggressive, but that would have been a case where I'd have been like, all right, I'm okay with them running out the clock, because they got the ball to start the second half too. And I feel like it's important to point out that was the only drive in the first half that did not result in points for the Steelers.
Oh, yeah. I was confused why the timeout happened with 2 seconds left. I think Ben Roethlisberger accidentally called the timeout, which was funny. But I agree, especially after going into the half last game, what happened with, like, Vance McDonald almost fumbling and almost interceptions. I was like, nah, we're cool. We can go into the half. This is a good enough lead where I feel comfortable not forcing the ball downfield and coming out in the half. And obviously it worked out. Coming out of the half where the Steelers defense just played even stronger.
Yeah, you're right. They picked up right where they left off. The Steelers just immediately go boom, boom, boom down the field. And it was like the first half all over again. 12-play, 75-yard drive. The Steelers just go right down the field. A 13-yard pass to Smith-Schuster, a 13-yard run by James Conner, a 9-yard pass to Darius Hayward-Bay, his first catch of the year. Vance McDonald caught a 7-yard pass. Smith-Schuster converted a third down with a 9-yard reception. And then the second incompletion of the day was a drop by Juju in the end zone. Not an easy catch, mind you, but Roethlisberger's second incompletion of the day. And then the next play, a touchdown to Vance McDonald, 12 yards, and then the penalty on the Panthers to boot. So 3 third down conversions, McDonald in the back of the end zone. I'll be honest, to kind of agree with your point that the Steelers got the calls in this one, I kind of felt like that wasn't a touchdown. Did you see that?
No, I actually completely agree. I was going to bring that up if you didn't. I thought that as soon as I saw it, I was like, that ball is not under control by the time he touches out of bounds. So, and what was even crazier about that is they didn't sit there for long. They said, yeah, it's a touchdown, and then moved on. Like, it was like 3 minutes of waiting. So, like, I don't know. I felt like it was a touchdown. I'll take it. But, like, it was questionable to me. To me, it looked like that ball was moving.
Last year, that's most likely ruled incomplete. But in any case, that was a huge statement drive. The Steelers go up 38-14 there, and it's like, well, now the game is over. And then Cam Newton gets sacked by Bud Dupree on the ensuing drive. They can't get anything going. They go 3 and out, and the Steelers get the ball back, and it's just boom, 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 down the field again. And this drive was highlighted by a couple big plays, one to Vance McDonald for 19, and then an 18-yard run by Ben Roethlisberger. I'm sure you remember this. The dive or the slide at the end, and then Eric Reid comes in, hits Roethlisberger in the head, and gets not only a personal foul, but also is disqualified from the game. A scrap ensues between him, the Panthers, and the Steelers. And I guess what were just your whole thoughts on that play?
My thoughts were it was a dirty hit. That I completely agree with, because the announcers even said you're allowed to hit the quarterback when they're sliding, but you're not allowed to hit their head. You're not allowed, and if there's intent behind it, it looks like it was forcefully hitting the head, they could get ejected. And that's what it looked like to me. It looked like you clearly see on the tape that Ben's head flies backwards, and that's all Eric Reid hit. And I thought it was easily a disqualification. I know some people on Twitter called it soft. I don't agree. I thought, especially with the NFL new rules, that was a bad hit. And DeCastro saw it, and Marquise Pouncey saw it, and it got in Eric Reid's face. And I love that. I really love the offensive line's willingness to protect their quarterback. James Washington just kind of walked away at the bottom of the screen. He's like, yeah, I'm done. And then, but Juju Smith-Schuster was in there too. Juju Smith-Schuster wanted to be a big offensive lineman and get in on Eric Reid, and that made me laugh a little bit after seeing it. And obviously, Ben Roethlisberger was okay, and it turned an 18-yard run into a 33-yard run, or actually I think it was half the distance to the goal, and a not 15-yard penalty. Well, regardless, it made it more than an 18-yard run, so it was really good. Also, on that run, Ben Roethlisberger looks so fast. I mean, for the big guy that he is, he really does look faster than he's been in previous years. I don't know. That run up the middle was actually really nice from him, but even before the extra yards he got for the unnecessary roughness call. But, yeah.
I would like to echo those sentiments. It takes him a while to get up to full speed now at the ripe age of, 37, I believe he is? I can't believe he's that old.
Yeah, something like that. I think he's 37, 38.
But he got those wheels churning, and he was moving. He was moving fast. And, that was just an unnecessary hit by Eric Reid. Had Roethlisberger slid down just a split second later, he'd have been knocked out, just like Kiko Alonso knocked out Joe Flacco last year, and what I thought was a very dirty hit. And, again, I was obviously very happy to see the way the team stepped in and kind of handled it. And although I really agree with Reid being disqualified, I do want to mention that he did go to Ben Roethlisberger and apologize to him personally before he exited the field. So I want to make sure that I highlighted that, because even though he did make a mistake, he was able to admit it, even though maybe it took a bunch of linemen getting in his face first. But, hey, you know what? He did do it. Some guys will just go away and say, oh, it wasn't a dirty play or whatnot. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. The Steelers.
Yeah, good on him.
Yeah, exactly. Jalen Samuels had a carry that lost a yard on the next play, and then the Steelers are right back in the end zone the play after that. Jesse James catching his first touchdown pass in quite a few weeks, I believe his second of the season, and it's just ugly now. The Steelers go up 45-14, and it's clear that the Panthers have no resistance left to offer as the third quarter is winding down. And it's just like, all right, this game is over. When are we going to see Josh Dobbs, right?
Yeah, it was starting to get excited for seeing Josh Dobbs. And you just, with 18 seconds left to go in the third quarter, you just don't think it could get worse for the Panthers. But it does.
Yep. On the ensuing kickoff, Curtis Samuel fumbles after a fantastic hit by Roosevelt Nix. That's one of the most impressive special teams tackles I've ever seen. He breaks down and purposely knocks the ball out by punching it that low to the ground. That was incredible. And then Chicolo wins the race to the special teams battle, wins the special teams race battle to the ball to recover it. And then 2 plays later, Roethlisberger on the screen to Jalen Samuels. You think he wants to score a touchdown? He helicopters into the end zone. And it's 52-14, and man, oh man, it could have been even worse after that too. But just a storm, like a blizzard, and the Panthers just had no way of stopping the bleeding.
Oh yeah, I really like that Jalen Samuels touchdown, because you really saw, like what you said, he really wanted that touchdown. He wanted to prove that there's a reason he's here. I mean, he hasn't had a lot of touches, obviously, with James Conner being the bell cow and then Stephen Ridley being the running back too for the most part. But with them resting Conner, and I don't remember exactly when Conner got hurt. I believe it was a little bit later than this, but he got a lot of playing time in this game, and I felt like he did pretty solid in his playing time, and this touchdown capped it off. Even Ben Roethlisberger came up to him and he's like, good job. I wish I had the real sound clip, but he came up and really praised him for it. He's like, you're proving why you're here, or something like that. I'm really happy with Jalen Samuels after I really was not happy with that draft pick. I just want to remind everybody. So he did good in this game. That's what I'm trying to say.
So the Steelers now up comfortably, and that doesn't stop the defense from making some plays. The Panthers convert a 3rd and 1, but then 2 plays later, Cam Hayward picks up his 2nd sack. Poor Christian McCaffrey. I actually think he got the worst of that, and not Cam Newton. Cam Hayward bowled right over both of them.
Oh yeah! Shout out to Stephon Tuitt though. For Stephon Tuitt made Cameron Hayward back up into that. Really forced a lot of pressure in this one. Even though Stephon Tuitt didn't really light up the stat sheet, he had a really good game as well. He only had 2 tackles, but pressure-wise, he was Newton was under pressure all night, and then obviously Hayward had a redeeming game here, getting 2 sacks. So
I'd like to echo that. Fox put up a graphic at that play. After that play, Newton at that point had 30 dropbacks. Listen to this, Austin. He had either been hit by a defenders, knocked down completely, or sacked on 24 of the 30 dropbacks. That's incredible. I don't think I remember the last time I saw something that jarring.
Oh yeah, the Panthers' offensive line really. I praised them going in my preview. I wrote about them. I was like, yeah, they only gave up 1 more sack than the Steelers line at 12 coming into this game, so they're a pretty good line. They've been performing pretty well. And, I mean, they even had Ryan Khalil playing. I mean, maybe that hurt them. I mean, that was down the middle, though, so, that could really only hurt them on the Vince Williams sack. But, man, did my opinion change really quickly on how highly I was of the Panthers' O-line coming in. I guess they just haven't played anyone that good. I mean, they did play the Buccaneers' defensive line, so that's something. And they're not very good at pass rushing. But, I don't know. I just thought a little higher them coming into this game.
It was sure something, but with the game clearly in hand, the Steelers turned to Josh Dobbs and Marquise Pouncey also taken out of the game. Steelers go 3 and out. The first non-scoring drive of the game for the Steelers ended with 9 minutes to go in the game. I thought that was just a very interesting stat there. The Panthers then put together one last touchdown drive with the Steelers clearly letting up a little bit, and sure enough, the Steelers get some backups in there, namely Artie Burns, and the time off seems to have not done any good for Artie Burns. The one play he gets a look at, it's a pass interference that puts the ball at the 1 yard line. Woof.
Nope, he doesn't. It just makes me want to rub my eyes and just rub my temples, because it's just Artie Burns wasn't even beat bad on that play, and he just starts grabbing. His confidence is shattered. His confidence is gone. It's over. Artie Burns is not going to be a Steeler likely for much longer. It's unfortunate, but this is what it is. He's broken. Is the best way to put it. That was the only penalty of the night for the Steelers, by the way. Only penalty. The Steelers almost finished the game with 0 penalties, but that one penalty with 6 minutes and 21 seconds left to go in the 4th quarter was it for the night. And that hurt. That really did hurt. See, when it came in, it was a victory in itself, having zero penalties. I mean, obviously, special teams was the worst of it. So, having 0 special teams penalties was amazing in itself. But you kind of just wish that the game ended with 0 penalties on the Steelers, so they wouldn't be first in penalties still.
It's very weird because that's a play where you absolutely don't need to hold either. If that's one instance where you could be like, all right, Artie, go for the interception. If he catches it over you, yeah, that's very disappointing. But it's not a situation where you need to be perfect. If you're trying to go for the interception, at least you get you make a good effort to make a play on the ball. Grabbing the jersey there makes no sense. I don't get that at all. And I don't know what it's going to take to get him back on track if you can, but man, it's not looking good. And 2 plays later, Christian McCaffrey plunged in for his 3rd touchdown of the game. He's the only guy in the Panthers that really showed up the whole game. And congratulations to him. He was very solid all night. And the Steelers and Panthers just run out the clock on the next 2 drives. So the Steelers come away with a 52-21 win. I guess, was there anything on the last couple drives that piqued your interest?
No, C.J. Anderson came in, and something interesting about C.J. Anderson, they just cut him. They got rid of C.J. Anderson right after this game. I think today, actually. I think they cut C.J. Anderson, but nothing in the actual game interesting to me. I really do wish I saw Josh Dobbs for one more drive. Obviously, they decided to run it out more, but I really wanted to see Josh Dobbs one more drive, one more attempt, because I was really excited about it.
If you're the Steelers, now knowing that if Connor gets hurt, it's Samuels and Ridley, do you think about picking up Anderson at all?
No, I don't. I've never been high on Anderson. I know last year he had 1,000 yards rushing with the Broncos, and that offensive line was very garbage at the time, and he didn't get a lot of opportunities with the Panthers, but I'm just not a fan. I've never really liked him. I felt like he's always a bit overrated, even not being rated that highly. He's an average back. He would just be adding more averageness to Jalen Samuels and Stephen Ridley. I don't know. What do you think?
I just wanted to get your thoughts. I'm kind of in a similar boat with you at this point. But all right, so Steelers move to 6-2-1. The Panthers dropping this one. They fall to 6-3. I guess, what are your final thoughts on the game? Like, who stood out? Like, we'll get into winners and losers in a minute, but just more thoughts on the game.
Really, I was excited. Like, this is like a really good game. Like, I didn't feel like very confident about it. Like, I had a little short story to tell you guys really quick. So I do survival football, and what survival football is, you pick a team every week, and once you pick that team to win, you can't pick them again for the season. And the idea is whoever's the last person standing in the league wins all the money. Well, I've been eliminated since week 3, but I have a buddy who was like, I'm going to pick the Steelers. And I told him, no. I told him to absolutely do not pick the Steelers. I was like, it's too close of a game. Why would you do that? So then the Steelers go on to obviously win this game 52-21. And I apologize to him. But what's really bad about all this is the team I convinced him to switch to. I told him to switch to Philadelphia Eagles at the Cowboys. And if you guys don't know, if you guys didn't watch Sunday Night Football, the Philadelphia Eagles blew it to the Cowboys. So I got my friend eliminated because I told him not to pick the Steelers. Because it shocked me. Now, getting back to why I'm even telling you that, it shocked me how badly the Steelers won this game. Like, this game wasn't even close. That final score is basically 52-14 for me. I mean, like, if you didn't put Artie Burns in, they're likely not getting that pass interference call. Like, it's 52-14. It's just a blowout, and I wasn't expecting that. I thought the Panthers were going to be a little bit better than that, but, I mean, it's Thursday Night Football, and the home team. The Steelers were the home team, so maybe you could attribute that to that, but I don't know. What are your final thoughts on the game?
Well, it could have been so much worse, too. Not only could it have been 52-14, it could have been, it could have been 59-14. Remember, Ben Roethlisberger got, put on the bench with 10 minutes to go in the game. They took their foot off the throttle a long time ago, and they could have easily done more. I think this is one of the best games, start to finish, I've ever seen the Steelers play. I mean, it's the most points they've ever scored at Heinz Field. It's the second time they scored 50-plus points at Heinz Field. Yeah, the defense gave up 21 points, but they forced 2 turnovers on the day. They were getting after Cam Newton, and besides the first drive, the Panthers really struggled to get things going. Their third touchdown, as we talked about, was kind of garbage time. They really had 2 legitimate scoring drives, and if you take away the first one, they didn't have much. In the second half, they had, I think it was like 50 yards of offense, something like that. They couldn't get going. The Steelers just had everything rolling. You're not going to win games like this in the NFL very often, but when you're able to do it against a team that I think is really good, like the Panthers, one of the better teams in the NFC, that's obviously a good sign. And that's something you want to see more of going forward. Now, the big thing is you don't want to see a letdown game next week, but that's an issue for next time. But, obviously there's a lot of reasons to be excited about this. So with the Steelers winning on Thursday night, we got to sit back and enjoy the NFL action on Sunday. And there was a good amount of action, some interesting scores. And I guess we'll get back to our pick'em section now, and we'll go through that at this moment. So the first game that we looked at was the Lions and Bears. I decided to pick the Lions plus the 6.5, Austin, because they had beaten the Bears in 9 of the last 10 matchups. But you picked the Bears to cover. The Bears just absolutely throttled the Lions. The Lions did manage to make it an interesting game, but at times they were really never in it.
Yeah, the Lions really put up most of their points at the end of the game where it was a little too late. I just thought the Bears were going to win by a touchdown. I didn't really think that it was going to be like a blowout like it really was. I mean, 34-22 doesn't scream blowout, but when you looked at the score at the beginning of the fourth quarter, it was pretty rough.
All right, a couple other games we wanted to get to. Saints and Bengals. I thought about picking the Bengals, but I didn't have much faith in the Bengals off the bye. Marvin Lewis has a losing record off the bye, and the Saints are just on a roll right now, plain and simple.
Saints look like my Super Bowl favorite right now. Like that. I just think that they're really good, and Steelers scratched their back. They scratched ours. They moved the Bengals now back a game and a half behind the Steelers, with the Steelers having the tie, and now the Panthers are 2 games behind the Saints in that division. So they did us a favor. We did them a favor. It's a good deal.
It all works out. The Browns pick up their first win under interim head coach Greg Williams. I was shocked about this. The Browns come away with the win at home. Good win for Baker Mayfield. Had a great day.
Not only Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb had a great day too. Both the rookies. They're both really good in this game. And I just didn't like Atlanta. I don't know. Everyone's obsessed with Atlanta because of like 2 years ago where they were good. This team is garbage. Don't get it. I want everyone to know. Don't get it twisted. The Falcons are on a 3-game winning streak. They're garbage still. One of those games they beat were the Buccaneers. Like it's exactly like the Cowboys-Titans game when people were picking the Cowboys overwhelmingly, and I was just like, no, they're both garbage. Same thing. Browns and Falcons are both garbage, and you really couldn't. To me, you can't really tell who's the better garbage. I picked the Browns mostly because I just think that the Falcons are overrated as anything. And the Browns have only been good at home. So I picked it because the Browns were at home, and then just Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb went off. Nick Chubb has the longest run in Browns history now with that 92-yard touchdown run he had in this game. So that was dope. I started him in fantasy.
Also, the longest play of the season to date. One team that is good that we know of is the New England Patriots, and they got crushed on the road in Tennessee. It does feel like this game kind of happens almost once a year. Last year, the Dolphins crushed the Patriots on Monday Night Football, and here the Titans and former linebacker Mike Vrabel did it to his former coach and Bill Belichick. Typically, the Patriots go on a run after this kind of game, but they have a bye week now. The Patriots sitting at 7-3. They look kind of vulnerable. Are you buying into that? I
think that the Patriots have a problem against former coaches. I think that the Steelers need to hire a Patriots former coach because this isn't the first time this happened this year. They lost to the Lions, which the Lions looked bad at the time too, and they lost bad to the Lions in that game as well. So it's like I just think that it's because of the knowledge of what the Patriots are like. The Titans also had a vendetta because they also had Deion Lewis and Malcolm Butler, and both were pissed off at the Patriots and wanted to beat them as bad as they could. So I'm not worried about New England. I also don't think Titans are a competitor. I think that they're still very much garbage, but teams that know the Patriots beat them well. So that's something.
I think the Patriots might be a little weaker than they normally are, but I still think they'll be right there at the end. They need Rob Gronkowski back, although it's quite clear the red zone offense has struggled without him. The Jaguars and Colts. I'm sorry. Did you want to add something?
I was just going to say, I wanted to add that they also might be out Julian Edelman. I mean, he hurt his ankle and they're going to the bye. They said he might not lose time, but they also lost Dwayne Allen, the backup tight end to Rob Gronkowski. So they need people to return bad because this loss actually pushed them out of the second seed at the moment. But the Steelers jumped into it. So.
Alrighty. The Jaguars and Colts played in an AFC South clash. The Colts won a close matchup. The Jaguars' very slim playoff hopes got dealt a serious blow. They will be on life support against the Steelers next week, but Andrew Luck seems to be leading the Colts back to relevance. He hasn't been sacked in 4 weeks.
Quentin Nelson is so good. Broncos should have drafted him. I swear by it. The Broncos should have drafted him instead of Bradley Chubb, but regardless, I was a little confused coming into this game. I didn't know who to pick. I felt like it was going to be a close game, and it was. The Colts still ended up winning, and it was a pretty good game. It wasn't terrible.
The Chiefs win in unspectacular fashion against the Cardinals, 26-14. This was kind of a dull game, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, David Johnson saw his reemergence, but that was really about it. That was against a really bad defense. Yeah, it's really hard. We were talking about this pre-podcast. These teams with bad defenses, it's hard to see how they're going to make it come January when they're against the harder teams. It really is.
Bills at Jets, 2 teams with solid defenses but horrendous offenses. The Bills again continued their extremely their extremely weird trend of blowing teams out of the water or getting blown out. This time they beat the Jets by an incredible score of 41-10. And Matt Barkley, of all people, signed off the street, leads the Bills to victory. I did not see this one coming, but you did.
Yeah, Matt Barkley, the greatest of all time, bro. I knew it. To be honest with you, I was surprised Barkley didn't have a job because I felt like Barkley had shown a lot of promise and when he was on the team like last year. I was surprised. I did feel good about him coming in and starting. I did not think it was going to be a blowout. I knew that the Bills' defense was actually doing really good and it was being hidden by how bad their offense was. But, this game was so good for them. This game was really good, and the Jets just suck. The Jets are bad, and they should feel bad.
Well, I had been picking the Redskins perfectly up until this week, and then at the last minute, I changed my mind to go with the Buccaneers because I learned the Redskins would be without several more offensive starters than I originally thought. And, well, I want to take that back because I was right the first time. The Redskins did win 16-3. Dirk Cutter admitted that he took over play calling, and someone needs to stop him because the Buccaneers put up 500 yards of offense and managed just 3 points out of it. How does that happen?
Well, mostly because of Chandler Catanzaro, who they cut just recently because of that. But, also, I don't understand why he's taking over offensive play calling. The Bucs have been great on offense. It's their defense that's absolutely terrible, so that confused me. And that's probably why the Redskins won this one, to be honest, because let's be had no business with how bad their offensive line was. I predicted the Redskins to win because I was like, okay, they lost both their starting guards of the year. They're out them. They lost Paul Richardson. Jamison Crowder isn't playing. They don't have their left tackle Robert Moses. So you're left with a very, very scrubby offensive line. Your center is there, and your right tackle is still banged up. So, and then you also lost your top 2 wide receivers probably. And you don't have Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson is second on your team in reception still after missing some games. So, this is saying the Buccaneers have this one down. I have no idea. I honestly think it's because Dirk taking over play calling because the Buccaneers have been putting up points all season and they dropped 3 on the Redskins defense. I mean, the Redskins defense is above average, I'll say. They're not bad, but they're not amazing. But this game confused me. I thought the Bucs were a lock.
The Chargers were a lock over the Raiders in my mind, and there's really not a whole lot to say in my mind. The Raiders are just a horrible, horrible, horrible football team.
Ooh, Raiders are Raiders look like the favorite for the number 1 pick now. They look like the favorite because the Giants lost the Tank Bowl in terms of them winning because they lost because they won't get the number 1 overall pick. The Raiders are bad, and they just lost Martavis Bryant for the year. So that's going to just hurt them even more. They're just going to be worse. They actually kept it close for a while, and then the Chargers just took off. Like, it felt like the game was closer a little bit, and then just the Raiders couldn't keep it up. I thought it was going to be closer towards the end, but I was wrong.
Yeah, it took Phillip Rivers nearly 20 minutes to complete his first pass, but it didn't matter. Aaron Jones leads the Packers to victory, the running back. I'm sure just like we all thought, the Packers crushed the Dolphins at home, the Dolphins fading more and more after that 3-0 start.
Even though the Packers won this by a convincing margin, the Packers look so bad, man. Like, their whole team, it's just not the same. Do you know Aaron Rodgers' completion percentage this year?
What is it, like 62%?
It's at 60. It's sitting at 60%. Like, that's terrible. Like, and you could see it. There's why the Packers aren't doing as good because their wide receivers aren't catching Aaron Rodgers' balls, and Aaron isn't as accurate with probably because he's being limited by his injury stuff. I don't know. I really don't know. But it really shows you how much Aaron Rodgers carries this team because normally this team is fine. It's just the way it is. I mean, everything else is trash besides Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. I mean, Aaron Jones is doing good. Like you said, Aaron Jones rushed them to victory this game. But the team just looks bad all around. They can't get a pass rush with Kenny Clark, Blake Martinez, and, like, a bunch of good guys up there. And it's just that Mike Daniels has disappeared. I haven't heard his name all year this year. I feel like he's done nothing. I'm not sure his stats right now, but, like, I feel like he's gone. Like, that team is just – this team doesn't look good. They beat a very, very sad Dolphins team that had so many injuries. I believe they had 21 on the injury report coming into this game. And they came out looking like they were going to lose Jakeem Grant for the year and then Devontae Parker for the year. Neither of those two things happened, but Parker's out for 3 weeks. Jakeem Grant, I forget how long he's going to be out, but he is also injured. But they're going to the bye week at the perfect time, I guess, but they're a banged-up team, man. And the Packers should have dunked on them, if I'm being honest here.
The Seahawks and the Rams played out to an interesting finish. The Rams come away with a 36-31 victory, but we were talking about it. The Rams just haven't been as impressive the last few handful of weeks.
No, the Rams went from being like the favorite for the Super Bowl probably to win it all to really falling for me. Like, they could be in the playoffs on their first game and lose. Like, they don't look good. They need Aqib Talib back, and I'm not sure that's going to fix them either because their secondary isn't performing. It's not good. Like, they should have lost to the Packers. Let's be real. Ty Montgomery fumbled. Aaron Rodgers is likely leading that team to victory on that drive. I mean, who knows? But then they come and then they play the Saints and they get smacked. So that would have been 2 losses in a row. And then they come here and they play our division rival, the Seahawks, which I actually thought the Seahawks were going to win based on how bad the Rams have been playing. The Seahawks still kept it close. And they looked like for a little bit the Seahawks were going to win. I mean, they ended up blowing it and not being able to keep up. But I'm not sold on the Rams anymore. I'm going to have to see them when Aqib Talib comes back. But Marcus Peters has been playing so bad for them. Hopefully Aqib Talib fixes it. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me, not hopefully. Just if they want to be good, they're going to have to fix that secondary somehow.
Sunday Night Football, you already talked about the Eagles-Cowboys. We all thought the Eagles were going to blow out the Cowboys. Well, a divisional game always ends up being funny, and the Cowboys pull out the huge victory on the road, 27-20. The Eagles are in trouble, man.
Eagles are in trouble, and I actually did predict this for the season. I said that I feel like everyone from the NFC East has a different person every year, and I said that the Eagles weren't going to make the playoff this year. But, like, they're just it feels like they should be performing well. They still should be there because they got Carson Wentz. They got Alshon Jeffrey and Golden Tate now. And Wendell Smallwood has been a decent running back. I mean, obviously it's not your ideal, but they also have a great offensive line, and they're just they're not performing. Like, they don't even have that many injuries to say, like, yeah, well, we're missing this guy and we'll be better when he comes back. Like, they're just really underperforming. And for that game, I don't know. I was really expecting more out of Golden Tate. I thought Golden Tate would make a difference maker. Amari Cooper on the other side did way better. 6 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown compared to what Golden Tate did, which was he got 2 catches for 19 yards. That's not a difference maker. Like, Golden Tate is better than that. I mean, maybe he was thriving in the Lions system, but typically Golden Tate is a better yards after catch receiver. So, like, he needs to get more catches than that. Zach Ertz did amazing, but, like, other than that, like, the Cowboys just had the game on lock. Their defense was playing good. Dak Prescott wasn't good, but Ezekiel Elliott was good. I didn't expect that. That's why I thought the Eagles were going to cover easily. The Eagles have a really good defensive line, and then in terms of yards per game, they're the second-best rushing defense. I believe that. Like, it wasn't like a facade, like they just get passed on all the time. Just rough for them, I feel like, at the moment. Also, Leighton Vander Esch, oh boy, that man looks so good. It's just, I feel like I saw it coming. I feel like I predicted that when we did our draft preview, but I really can't be mad about it because I feel like John Bostic has done good. But Leighton Vander Esch is going to be, when Sean Lee is gone because he's always injured, I feel like he's going to be good in this league for a long time. And then other than that, there's one more thing I wanted to mention, and it's gone. So, in terms of the Eagles struggling going forward, they also lost star cornerback Ronald Darby for the year, so that's going to be rough for them. And that wraps up for me for the Eagles and Cowboys.
Monday Night Football, Eli Manning and the New York Giants pull out the victory in the final moments against the San Francisco 49ers. They win the Tank Bowl, or lose the Tank Bowl, depending on how you look at it. Not a bad game for Monday Night Football, despite being through 2 teams that had 3 combined wins.
Oh, yeah, I didn't actually really get to watch it. I was just kind of looking at the score as time went on because I was at work. I'm just glad the Giants won because, like I said, the Raiders are now like really looking like they're going to get that number 1 overall pick. And obviously that helps the Steelers since the Steelers have one of their draft picks in this upcoming draft. So that's kind of what you hope for as a Steelers fan.
All right, with 7 weeks to go in the NFL season, I figured we could have a little fun here. Let's break the teams up by conference in the playoffs, and we'll kind of, put those teams and the teams in the hunt into tiers. So Tier 1 is going to be Super Bowl favorites, teams contending for a first-round bye. Tier 2 will be teams contending for a division title or a wild card, a cut below the top tier, who could be seen as dark horse candidates to get to the Super Bowl. Tier 3 will be teams fighting for a wild card spot, just hanging on or in the hunt, and then Tier 4 will be pretty much everybody else. So let's start with the AFC. Who are your top tier teams?
I only have 2 because I was picked mostly Super Bowl favorites, and that's the Chiefs and Patriots right now. Even though the Patriots just took a rough loss, I couldn't keep them out of this conversation, especially after they beat the Chiefs the first time. I feel like these 2 are like the favorites to get there. And that's really all I'm going to keep it at as of right now. I think that the Steelers can move up there in just a little bit. I want to see it's really going to be telling when the Steelers are both the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Saints. Those are 3 big games that are going to tell you where the Steelers stand in the league and in the AFC, because you get to see the Patriots and the Chargers, which are 2 of the top teams in the AFC right now. And then the Saints, like I said earlier, I think are the Super Bowl favorites in terms of winning it. So I'm going to go with the Steelers. The Patriots and the Chiefs right now for Super Bowl favorites. Who are your Super Bowl favorites right now?
Just go ahead and give me the rest of your tiers if you don't mind.
Oh, sorry. For NFC, it's going to be the Rams. I just think that the Rams are the only team really on the NFC that I can say are like, they're just better than everyone else. And then for Tier 2 on the other side, back to the AFC, it's the Steelers, like I said, then the Texans, the Chargers, and the Bengals, all in that order. I feel like I'm not as high on the Chargers as I was. I feel like the Texans are a hot team right now, even though they played really bad teams. So I'm going to go with that. They're the teams that are going to be like the wild card and division title teams, in my opinion. Now going to the NFC, I only have one team because I know that might sound weird, but like there's only one team where I feel like this team is definitely getting to the playoffs. Everyone else to me is a question mark, and that's the Bears. And that might come as a surprise, but their defense is too good. They got Khalil Mack back, and John pointed out that there hasn't been a team that's won a Super Bowl with their NE/A over 5 yards, and the Bears are one of the only teams that have it under that. So I think that the Bears are a lock, especially with their division kind of sucking. I don't like the Vikings as much as I did last year. I don't like the Packers. I went on a whole rant about them. So the Bears are my only lock there. For back to the AFC for everybody else, it's really just the Titans. Titans are like the only one that could get back there. Oh, I'm stupid. I am completely stupid. I forgot the Saints, and I said that they were my lock for the Super Bowl. Yeah, Saints are tier 1 on the NFC side. I apologize about that. I completely forgot. I mean, straight after saying that they were my Super Bowl favorite. Anyway, tier 4 for everybody else on the AFC side, it's really the Titans, and that's about really it. I mean, the Ravens are there, the Colts are there, but like I feel like the Titans are my favorite right now to win it because the Titans are inconsistent, but they can beat good teams. The Titans lost to the Bills, but they beat the Eagles and the Patriots. So I mean, and maybe because the Eagles, how they're playing, like you don't view that as highly anymore. I still like them a little bit. I feel like they're the best for the second wild card. I think the Chargers are like a lock for the first wild card in my opinion, and then I think Titans might get the second. But Bengals are going to be competing there too. But I had the Bengals at tier 2 instead of tier 3. But moving on to, I think I just messed everything up. I messed everything up here. Anyhow, I'm trying to finish this quickly for the NFC side. Tier 3 is just hanging on, and that's the Vikings, Panthers, and Redskins. I'm not sold on the Redskins at all, but their division sucks. The Panthers, we just saw what they did against the Steelers. They're going to be a wild card team likely if they make it there, but they're competing. And then the Vikings, I'm not sure they're going to beat out the Bears, and that just leaves everybody else. So what is your playoffs look for the AFC and NFC?
Well, starting with the top tier, I did it a little bit differently from you, and I had teams grouped together a little more. The top tier in the AFC, I think the Chiefs, Steelers, and Patriots are cut above the rest right now. They're all more proven teams, and they've been more successful this year. I think all three of those teams are going to be competing for a first-round bye at the end of the season. And then tier 2, I have the Chargers and Texans. The Chargers are probably the best wildcard team in football right now, and they could have a legitimate stake to leading just about every other division in football. They're a good football team. The Houston Texans seem to be rounding into form as well. They're solid. Tier 3, teams fighting for a wildcard spot. I have the Bengals, Ravens, Titans, and Colts. The Ravens and Bengals have been trending downward, while the Titans and Colts have been trending upward. I don't know. It looks like there's only going to be one spot left. If I had to guess, I think the Colts are still a year away. I think the Titans look like the team that can do it, but the Bengals are the closest right now, so that'll be interesting. And then tier 4 is everyone else, being the Dolphins, Browns, Jaguars, Broncos, Bills, Jets, and Raiders. On the NFC side, top tier, I have the New Orleans Saints and Los Angeles Rams as the Super Bowl favorites. Those teams are hosting their first round of the playoffs for sure. Tier 2, I have the Carolina Panthers, Minnesota Vikings, Chicago Bears, and Washington Redskins. I have the Redskins in here because they're clearly contending for their division. Otherwise, they'd probably be in tier number 3. The Vikings-Bears is going to come down to the end, and I'm very excited to see that. And even though the Panthers got blown out by the Steelers this week, I still think they're a pretty solid team. Tier 3, I have the Falcons, Seahawks, Eagles, and Packers. These teams, it's probably only going to be one of these teams making it in. I'm not sure. All these teams don't look that great right now. I'm not sure which one will come out of the pack. If I had to guess right now, I think it'll be the Seahawks. I think they have the most there right now. And then Tier 4, I have everybody else. The Buccaneers, Lions, Cardinals, Giants, 49ers, and Cowboys. And look, that win by the Cowboys didn't prove anything to me. I still don't think they're a good football team. Let's move on to NFL news. The Chiefs-Rams Monday Night Football game next week got moved to Los Angeles to play at the Coliseum from Mexico City due to bad field conditions. The NFL just made the decision that it would not be ready in time for the game. The LA Rams will be giving out 1,000 tickets to free firefighters and EMTs for firefighting in the forest out in California. Obviously, the deadly wildfires out there, no joke at all. So, interesting news and bit of NFL action going on there. What were your thoughts?
I think it was a smart decision. I've seen the pictures of that field. It was absolutely destroyed. And, I mean, I understand, like, that you're a venue and you have to, like, you obviously have to be a venue. You have to give it to everyone. You have to put out concerts. But, like, this is a big event. This is, like, one of the few times the NFL comes to Mexico to play a game, and they blew it for the fans and everyone. And it sucks. For the people that, like, spend money to go there and stay there. Like, you see on Twitter, people saying, like, wow, I spent money on plane tickets to go down there and see my team. I mean, I guess if you're spending money on plane tickets to go down to Mexico, you're probably not putting in a bad financial state. But regardless, the people that live in Mexico are really who I feel bad for. Like, this is a one time a year where they could say they could go to a game and it might not be like $1,000 to get a plane ticket, to get a hotel, then get a plane ticket back. And this stadium, this venue blew it for them because they had a concert like a week before and it ruined the stadium. I just feel bad for them, but it's good for the NFL to save their face a little bit by giving the free tickets out to firefighters and EMTs. I really don't think it's out of good heart. I really think that the NFL did it as a business decision to not look as bad for pulling the game out of Mexico. But I will say it is a nice gesture to give to the people trying to contain this awful forest fire that's happening in Cali right now. But those are my thoughts on it.
The Buffalo Bills have waived wide receiver Terrell Pryor and cut quarterback Nathan Peterman. The career of the worst quarterback in modern NFL history is over.
It's just sad. You gotta smile. You can't be sad because it's over. You gotta smile because it's happened. Because all the memes are over. You can't. There not going to be any memes about the pick sixes and interceptions and the turnovers out of Peterman's bakery. It's just. It's really sad. I really don't want the memes to come to an end, but the former Pitt product is likely done with his NFL career. If if he gets another shot, there's going to be so many pissed off people for the fact that some other man does not have a job and Peterman does. And I would have to agree. I would have to agree at that point that if Peterman gets another shot and Kaepernick doesn't, I would understand why people are mad.
Well, in any case, here's an interesting thing. Have you always heard the talks about could Alabama beat an NFL team?
Yeah.
You want to know why that would never happen?
Why is that?
Nathan Peterman dropped 43 points on the national champions in Clemson his senior season.
Oh, yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. Right now, the Bills, they came out with a line for that. If it were to happen, the line would be 28.5 points in favor of the Bills to beat Alabama. So it's funny that people even think it would be that close.
It wouldn't be. They'd need to be favored by at least like 40 in my mind. But
oh, yeah.
That's just me. But in any case, another bit of news. Hugh Jackson, the recently fired head coach of the Cleveland Browns, returns to the Cincinnati Bengals, where he was previously an offensive coordinator in the mid-20-teens. He is the special assistant to the head coach, and Austin was so kind to point out he's basically the Dwight Schrute of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes, sir, because he's not assistant head coach. He's assistant to the head coach, and he's a special one. Don't forget the special part, because he's extra special.
Oh, my God. Well, this makes sense for the Bengals because they just fired defensive coordinator Terrell Austin, which now means Marvin Lewis will have to take over defensive play calling, which means he needs help on offense. So in comes Hugh Jackson to save the day. Is Hugh Jackson ever going to be a head coach again?
I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. But, I mean, look at the Browns' current interim head coach. I don't think I ever would have thought he would have been one. So, I mean, everything is possible given time. So,
good point. Good point. Cooper Kupp, the wide receiver for the LA Rams, tore his ACL on Sunday. That was just an unfortunate injury.
Yep, he was coming back from another injury in his knee. I believe it was the MCL. And it wasn't as bad, but then now it's completely done. He was having a not a breakout year because he had a pretty good year his rookie year, but he was just continuing to building on being a top receiver, working up to being a top receiver in the league. So it sucks for the Rams, makes them weaker.
And obviously, this receiver had quite a disappointing end to his season before it even got going. And I'm talking about Dez Bryant. In the final play of his first practice with the Saints before playing his first game, Dez Bryant tears his Achilles. His season is over. The Saints go out and sign Brandon Marshall. Poor Dez.
Yeah, it really does stink. He waited all this time to be on a competitor because he said he had offers. Like, it came out afterwards that he just was truthful. He's like, yeah, the Ravens actually offered me a lot more because he took a minimum deal with the Saints. The Browns offered him more. He wanted to be on a winning squad, and I mean, he might still end up with a ring. He might not play. I think they give out rings to the injured players, right?
Yes,
that happens.
They definitely have the option to. I believe they do. Like, I think theoretically, if the Steelers win the Super Bowl this year, they could give a ring to Bell, but they won't.
Ah, okay. Well, that's interesting. But anyway, in turn, the Saints signed veteran wide receiver Brandon Marshall following this. And, I mean, I actually I don't know if you watched the Saints game at all this week against the Bengals, but I kind of like their undrafted free agent rookie, Kirkwood. I mean, I don't think he lit up the stat sheet. I think he had 2 catches, and one was just really long. But, like, I feel like they should give him a chance because that was the only game he got to play. And I liked what I saw from the short thing. I mean, we'll see, though. For some reason, they don't like Traquan Smith. I don't know what Traquan Smith did that they don't really like him, but he had a really good game earlier this year. But we'll see how this works out with Brandon Marshall in New Orleans. Fun to point out, Brandon Marshall, in all his seasons, I believe it's 14 now, has never played in a playoff game because, he's been with the Bears, he's been with the Jets, and my mind is saying Broncos, but there's a team before the Bears that I think I'm forgetting. But yeah, so he's never been in a playoff game, and if the Saints make the playoffs, which they do, this will be his first one in his long career.
Brandon Marshall has played previously with the Denver Broncos, the Miami Dolphins, Chicago Bears, New York Giants, and New York Jets.
Oh, boy, I forgot a few teams. Broncos stood in my head. I forgot about the Dolphins, and I don't know why I forgot about the Giants because that was recent. That was only 2 years ago. But he's been on a really bad team.
Alrighty. That'll conclude our NFL news. Let's get into our awards section. For the big stop of the week, it has to be Vince Williams and his pick six. That put the Steelers up 14-7, scoring the Steelers' second touchdown in a 13-second span. He didn't really do a ton special on the play. I mean, TJ Watt forced the pressure and Cam Newton made a terrible decision, but hey, you got to make plays too. And Vince Williams traveled under the ball, caught it, and just ran it back in. It was a beautiful play in its own right, and it really turned the tide of the game. So congratulations to Vince Williams on this week's Stronger Than Steel Big Stop of the Week award. So, Austin, the Stronger Than Steel Player of the Week, there were a lot of different players to choose from, I bet.
Yeah, really, it wasn't even hard. With his perfect passer rating, 158.3, more touchdowns than incompletions with 5 touchdowns, and throwing for over 300 yards again this year. Ben Roethlisberger is the Stronger Than Steel Player of the Week. I mean, the only other one that could have even contended with him is probably Vince Williams, because Vince had the pick six and the sack. But to me, Ben Roethlisberger just ran away with it.
Alrighty, and then the play of the game, we decided to go with just the opening 75-yard touchdown to Juju Smith-Schuster, simply because it was just, it felt like a game that could have snowballed and gotten out of the Steelers' hands, and when the Steelers just one play, boom, touchdown, you really felt like it maybe wasn't going to be a great night like the night it turned out to be, but you were like, all right, I think they'll be okay, and sure enough, that's what happened. It was just a terrific, all around, just terrific game plan, terrific something they saw on tape, and it was executed tremendously. And the Steelers walked away with the touchdown on their first play of the game. So a lot of winners to look at from this game. Try to narrow it down to two for me. Give me your winners and losers. I know the winners will be easier, but try to give me two of each.
For winners, my first one was Cameron Hayward. He hadn't been able to do much against weaker opponents where he should have been dominating. And then against a stronger opponent, he comes and destroys. It makes sense, obviously. But with 2 sacks in this one, he was a winner for me. Then my other winner was Rosie Nix. He was a winner on special teams and on offense in this one, having 2 big receptions in this one. I still believe he's a bit underutilized for what he can do, so I'm making him a winner. As for my losers, I have Artie Burns as the first one. Burns got playing time with the Steelers up by so much, and what was an amazing showing from the team having no penalties. Burns comes in and gets a long pass interference penalty in the end zone. We're not going to see him start again this season, especially then allowing a near-perfect passer rating when targeted this year. The passer rating when targeting Artie Burns is 149.3, with the cap being 158.3, so that's something. My other loser is Jordan Berry. He didn't get to punt much, but still managed to mess it up when he did, kicking a short 28-yard one on one of his 2, so he's a loser for me. Who are your winners and losers in this one?
My winners for the Steelers is quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, and we already know he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. This game was one of the best he's ever had, and it's been a privilege to document his career. 2 6-touchdown games. This now his 4th 5-touchdown game, and he has 3 games with 500 yards. It's just been incredible to see him when he's at his best, and this was just no exception. He was so efficient and dominant in this one. And then my other winner is Chris Boswell. He finally hit a long field goal. He needs another performance like this one where he was perfect on the day. He hit all the little extra points, and he hit a big kick as well. I know we've talked about the first step towards being himself again. This is a legitimate step, and I think that Boswell is trending in the right direction now. My losers are Marcus Gilbert, and I got to ask you, with the way Matt Filer has played the last couple of weeks, is there a chance Marcus Gilbert gets benched? I mean, he has 1 year left on his contract after this, but the Steelers could theoretically cut him. It would only cost them $1 million in dead cap space. Would the Steelers be wise in doing so?
You know what's funny that you bringing that up is if this happened a few weeks earlier, it would have been interesting to see if the Steelers tried to trade Marcus Gilbert or even Matt Filer for that matter. I mean, I actually would have preferred to keep Filer, but it's something to think about. That the Steelers probably could have pulled off and gotten like a 3rd-round pick for Gilbert with technically a year and a half left on his contract. So, and he's still playing at a high level, but that would have been interesting. I think it's a possibility they cut Gilbert, but I'm not exactly a fan. It depends on how confident they are in developing Chukwuma Okorafor. Surprisingly, I haven't really seen him play much this year, even with Gilbert's injury. And I mean, that's a little bit worrisome, but I mean, based on what his pre-draft analysis was, is he was a little bit raw. So it's good to have him sit for a year, learn it, and then get ready. But be ready in a year or 2. But it's really based on how he develops. Because if he could be a good backup like Filer has been, where if you start Filer, you're not going to see really a difference, then yeah, go ahead and cut Gilbert because he's a big hit to the cap space. And with the money they're saving with Bell, then the money they saved by reconstructing Vance McDonald and Cameron Hayward's contract, and then you add that, the Steelers could go and grab two good guys for like cornerback. Like I don't really know the list of quarterbacks right now. Ronald Darby would probably be one of the top ones. I mean, he's coming off an ACL injury, so that's going to be rough. But that's a lot of money that you could be put somewhere. And if the Steelers do think Chukwuma Okorafor is going to be ready, I say go for it, or try and get a 6th-round pick for Gilbert at the beginning of next season. If I think that, because I think you could for like a 1-year rental, a 6th-round pick. That's not out of the question.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. I'm a personal believer in you can never have enough good offensive linemen, so I'd want to keep him, but I could understand why the Steelers might want to move him, and Filer has been fantastic. My other loser is Cameron Sutton. I don't know if he played at all, but was he there? Was he injured? I didn't see him because otherwise I didn't really have any other losers. I mean, it was darn near impossible to pick a loser in this game, and I guess I'll go with Cam Sutton just because I'm beating a dead horse here, or I'm literally picking someone else. Cam Sutton really isn't a loser, but I guess I could go with James Washington. That might be a little more fair. How about James Washington, just because in this offensive explosion he didn't even get a target? There, that's more fair. No offense to Cam Sutton. I didn't mean to beat up on you like that. But James Washington is my
It's not
other
okay,
loser.
man. It's not okay. How dare you?
James Washington is my other loser. I mean, when is he going to step up? I hope it's soon, right?
I hope so. He's definitely not developing as fast as Juju Smith-Schuster, but I mean, hopefully he's getting there.
Alrighty, and I believe that'll bring us to the end of this podcast. I know it ran a little long, but we also talked about Le'Veon Bell for about a half hour, so we got a good amount of discussion in there. So I know this one ran a little long, but I'm sure we'll streamline this a little bit. But Austin, what were your initial thoughts?
It's a really good game. I mean, just a lot of good play, and then hopefully James Conner comes out for next game out of the concussion protocol, because he was one of the only players injured in this game, and he's still in concussion protocol as of today. He's supposed to practice tomorrow, though. Tomorrow being Wednesday, so that's when all the Steelers reconvene. Obviously, Mike Tomlin told them that they didn't even have to come back to the facility until Wednesday, so that's something.
That was one thing we forgot to do, was to mention the injury report, but I think you pretty much covered it. So, alrighty, we'll wrap up this podcast, and we'll be back to talk about Steelers and Jaguars for the first time since the playoffs this past January. But for the time being, thank you so much for joining us on the Stronger Than Steel podcast today. If you have any questions, email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to look at our website, strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com. You can check out our positional grades. We'll have those posted tomorrow after this video is posted, talking about how we thought everyone did. And then if you want to visit our various social media platforms, their usernames will be listed in our description below. Thank you so much for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. Austin, appreciate the time as always. And always nice to talk about the Steelers after a big win like this, and hopefully we'll have another one to talk about next week.
Yeah, man, it's going to be good. Hopefully Steelers keep it up against a really poor-looking Jaguars, but it just looks like a game the Steelers would manage to lose somehow.
We will see, but for the time being, thank you for listening, and as always, have a great night, and thank you for listening to us on the Stronger Than Steel podcast.
Goodbye.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.